The crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the marble floor of the grand ballroom, their light catching the silk gowns and diamond jewelry of Portland's elite. Marcus Chun moved through the crowd with practiced invisibility, his crisp white server's jacket pristine despite 3 hours of carrying champagne flutes and canapes to guests who barely acknowledged his presence. He paused beside a towering ice sculpture, adjusting his black bow tie with calloused hands that told stories of late nights and early mornings. 8 years of this work, 8 years of swallowing pride to provide for Emma, and still the ache in his chest felt fresh whenever he watched these people celebrate achievements he once shared from the other side. Across the ballroom, Victoria Sterling stood alone near the auction display, her emerald dress a stark contrast to her distant expression. She lifted her champagne glass, but didn't drink, her dark eyes scanning the room with the weariness of someone who had attended 100 such events without finding what she was searching for. Before we continue with Marcus and Victoria's story, drop a comment and let us know what state you're watching from. Maybe these charity galas happen in your city too. Marcus caught her gaze for just a moment as he passed, something flickering between recognition and curiosity, before duty called him back to the kitchen. Neither could have predicted that this single glance would change everything. 3 hours earlier, Marcus had knelt beside Emma's bed, reading from her favorite collection of poetry. Her small fingers traced the illustrations as his voice brought the verses to life, each word carefully chosen to paint pictures in her mind. "Daddy, why do you always sound different when you read?" Emma had asked, her 80-year-old wisdom cutting straight to truth. Marcus had smiled, tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear. "Because these words deserve to be heard properly, sweetheart. Every story needs someone who understands its heart." Now, serving champagne to strangers who saw only his uniform, he carried that same reverence for language, that same careful attention to meaning that had once filled lecture halls at Portland State University. The irony wasn't lost on him that he moved among people discussing quarterly profits and stock portfolios, while poetry still flowed through his veins like blood. Meanwhile, Victoria sat in her penthouse office earlier that evening, staring at financial reports that blurred together like meaningless numbers. Her assistant had laid out 3 designer gowns for the charity gala, but Victoria felt empty choosing between facades. Her divorce papers sat signed on the mahogany desk, final proof that success meant nothing without substance. She thought about calling her sister, maybe admitting the loneliness that consumed her wealthy existence, but pride kept her silent. Instead, she chose the emerald dress and prepared to play her role once more. Victoria approached the champagne station where Marcus stood arranging fresh glasses on silver trays. She moved with the confident stride of someone accustomed to commanding attention, yet something in her posture suggested vulnerability beneath the polished exterior. "Excuse me," she said, her voice carrying the refined accent of private schools and boardrooms. "Could I trouble you for something without bubbles? Perhaps water with lime?" Marcus looked up, meeting her eyes directly rather than averting his gaze, as most servers did. "Of course. Still or sparkling water, ma'am?" "Still, please. And thank you for asking." Victoria paused, studying his face. "Most people assume I want whatever's easiest to serve." He prepared her drink with deliberate care, selecting the clearest glass and arranging the lime precisely. "Everyone deserves to have their preferences honored," Marcus replied, his tone respectful but not subservient. "Your evening should be exactly what you need it to be." Victoria accepted the glass, their fingers brushing momentarily. The contact sent an unexpected warmth through her chest, something she hadn't felt in years of calculated business handshakes and perfunctory social kisses. "That's a refreshing perspective," she said softly. "I'm Victoria Sterling." "Marcus Chun. It's a pleasure to serve you this evening, Miss Sterling." His words carried weight beyond their simple meaning, as if he truly understood the difference between serving and being of service. Victoria lingered, reluctant to return to conversations about market trends and charitable tax write-offs. Victoria's marriage had been a merger disguised as romance. Richard Sterling possessed the right credentials, the perfect social standing, but their conversations never ventured beyond surface pleasantries. Even their intimate moments felt choreographed, lacking the spontaneous connection her soul craved. She remembered their final argument, Richard's cold dismissal when she suggested they travel somewhere meaningful instead of another business conference in Monaco. "You're becoming sentimental, Victoria. It doesn't suit a woman in your position." That night, she realized she'd married a reflection of herself, all ambition and no authentic emotion. Meanwhile, Marcus's world revolved entirely around Emma's needs and dreams. Every morning, he braided her hair while she chattered about school projects and playground friendships. Every evening, they shared dinner at their small kitchen table, discussing everything from her favorite books to her worries about math tests. "Daddy, why don't you teach anymore?" Emma had asked just last week, her innocent question piercing deeper than she knew. Marcus had paused, considering honesty versus protection. "Because teaching you is more important than teaching anyone else, sweetheart. You're my greatest student." But late at night, when Emma slept peacefully, Marcus sometimes pulled out his old lecture notes, running his fingers over margins filled with passionate observations about literature's power to transform lives. He'd traded his calling for her stability, a sacrifice that felt both necessary and heartbreaking. The evening's auction had begun when disaster struck near the dessert table. An elderly patron stumbled, sending a tower of champagne glasses crashing to the marble floor in an explosive cascade of crystal and golden liquid. Other servers froze, unsure whether to clean the mess or tend to the shaken guest. Marcus moved with quiet authority, first helping the gentleman to a nearby chair and checking for injuries with genuine concern. "Are you hurt, sir? Let me get you some water," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. Only after ensuring the man's well-being did Marcus turn to the shattered glass, efficiently directing other staff while personally handling the most dangerous shards. "Please, everyone continue enjoying your evening," Marcus announced to the gathered crowd, his natural leadership evident as he transformed chaos into order. "We'll have this cleared momentarily." Victoria watched from across the room, captivated by his graceful handling of the crisis. While others panicked or complained about the disruption, Marcus had taken control with a professor's steady presence, protecting both dignity and safety without drawing attention to himself. James Morrison, the Gala coordinator, approached Marcus afterward. "Where did you learn to manage a situation like that?" "Experience teaches you to prioritize people over problems," Marcus replied simply, returning to his duties as if he hadn't just demonstrated leadership that exceeded his job description. Victoria's curiosity deepened. This man possessed qualities that boardrooms full of executives often lacked. Victoria found Marcus on the balcony during his brief break, the city lights creating a backdrop of distant stars. He stood quietly, his bow tie loosened slightly, breathing in the cool evening air with the relief of someone escaping performance for a moment of authenticity. "The auction seems successful," she said, stepping beside him at the marble railing. Marcus turned, surprised but not displeased by her presence. "Yes, the Children's Literacy Foundation should benefit greatly. It's a worthy cause. You sound like you have personal investment in literacy programs." Victoria studied his profile, noting the way his eyes softened when discussing education. "Education changes everything," Marcus replied, his voice carrying conviction that money couldn't buy. "A single book can transform a child's entire future. I've seen it happen." They stood in comfortable silence, watching traffic move through the streets below like streams of light. Victoria felt an unfamiliar peace in his presence, a stark contrast to the calculated conversations inside. "This view reminds me why I love Portland," she said softly. "Sometimes I forget to notice beauty when I'm focused on business." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "My daughter always notices things I miss. She points out cloud shapes and interesting shadows. Children see poetry where adults see practicality. You speak about her with such tenderness. She's lucky to have you." "I'm the lucky one," Marcus replied, meaning every word. The gala was winding down when Victoria made her decision. She had spent the entire evening thinking about their balcony conversation, replaying Marcus's words about poetry and children and beauty. Something about his quiet strength called to her in ways that boardroom power never could. She found him clearing tables in the nearly empty ballroom, his movements efficient yet graceful, even in exhaustion. The other servers had departed, leaving Marcus to finish the final details with characteristic thoroughness. "Marcus," she called softly, her heels clicking against the marble as she approached. He looked up, setting down the crystal glasses he'd been collecting. "Miss Sterling, did you enjoy the evening?" Victoria stepped closer, her emerald dress rustling in the quiet space. The champagne had given her courage, but something deeper drove her forward. Loneliness, perhaps, or the desperate need to connect with someone real after years of superficial encounters. "I did, actually. More than I expected." She paused, studying his face in the dim lighting. "Marcus, I have a proposition." He waited, respectful but guarded. Victoria moved closer still, close enough to catch the faint scent of his cologne mixed with honest work. Her voice dropped to a whisper, intimate and bold. "Take me home." The words hung between them like a challenge, loaded with implication and desire. Victoria had used this approach before with other men, expecting the predictable response of eager acceptance. Marcus looked at Victoria for a long moment, his dark eyes holding depths she hadn't expected. Instead of the eager acceptance she'd grown accustomed to from other men, something entirely different crossed his features. Respect, perhaps, or recognition of something precious being offered carelessly. He stepped back slightly, not in rejection but in reverence, his voice gentle but firm when he finally spoke. "Miss Sterling, a woman like you deserves to be courted, not conquered. You deserve poetry, not just passion." Victoria's breath caught in her throat. No one had ever responded to her advances with such dignity, such consideration for her worth beyond the immediate moment. The words hit her like unexpected rain on drought-stricken ground. You deserve flowers chosen with thought, conversations that last until dawn, someone who sees your mind as clearly as your beauty. Marcus continued, his voice carrying the cadence of someone who understood language as art. You deserve to be treasured, not taken. The ballroom felt suspended in time, crystal chandeliers casting soft light on this moment that would change both their lives. Victoria had expected seduction and received something far more powerful, recognition of her inherent worth. "I don't understand," she whispered, though part of her did understand, had been waiting years for someone to see her this way. "You're worth more than a night, Victoria. You're worth a lifetime of mornings." Victoria felt tears threatening to spill, emotions she'd carefully controlled for years suddenly overwhelming her carefully constructed defenses. No one had ever spoken to her with such profound respect, such understanding of what she truly needed rather than what she thought she wanted. "How do you know?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "How do you know what I deserve?" Marcus set down the crystal glass he'd been holding, giving her his complete attention. "Because I see you," he said simply. "Not the CEO, not the designer dress, not the reputation. I see someone who's been settling for less because she's forgotten her own worth." "You're a server," Victoria said, but without condescension. The words came out confused, as if she were trying to reconcile his wisdom with his position. "I'm a father first, everything else second," Marcus replied. "I teach my daughter that every person has value beyond their circumstances. That includes you, and it includes me." Victoria sank into a nearby chair, her composure finally cracking. "I've been so lonely, Marcus. So tired of men who only see opportunity when they look at me. Loneliness makes us accept crumbs when we deserve banquets," he said, kneeling beside her chair with gentle concern. "But you don't have to settle anymore." "Who are you really?" she whispered, studying his face as if seeing him for the first time. "Someone who believes you deserve better than what you've been accepting." James Morrison appeared in the ballroom doorway, stopping short when he witnessed the tender scene between Victoria and Marcus. He'd worked dozens of these events, and never seen anything like this interaction between a guest and staff member. "Marcus," James called softly, "I hate to interrupt, but we need to finish the breakdown." Victoria looked up, wiping her eyes with elegant composure. "It's my fault, Mr. Morrison. I've been keeping him from his duties." James studied Marcus with new interest. Something about the way he spoke to this powerful woman, the natural authority in his posture, suggested depths James had never noticed. "You have a gift for conversation, Marcus," James observed. "Where did you develop such insight?" Marcus hesitated, then chose honesty. "I used to teach literature at Portland State, before Emma needed me home more." Victoria's eyes widened in understanding. "You're a professor." Marcus corrected gently. "Now I'm whatever Emma needs me to be." James shook his head in amazement. "You left academia to raise your daughter alone. Teaching her about life matters more than teaching others about books," Marcus replied, though Victoria could hear the wistfulness beneath his words. "But the books shaped how you see people, didn't they?" Victoria asked, pieces of the puzzle falling into place. Marcus smiled. "Literature teaches you that everyone has a story worth telling. Everyone deserves to be the hero of their own narrative." Victoria stood slowly, her entire understanding of the evening transformed. "You gave up your career for your daughter." "My wife died when Emma was barely 2, Marcus explained, his voice steady despite the pain that flickered across his features. "Childcare was expensive, university schedules were demanding, and Emma needed stability more than I needed recognition. But your passion for teaching, for literature," Victoria pressed, seeing him fully now. "You must miss it terribly." Marcus considered her words carefully. "I missed the classroom discussions, the moment when a student discovers something beautiful in a poem they thought they hated. But every night when I read to Emma, when I see her eyes light up at a well-chosen phrase, I remember why words matter." James listened in stunned silence, finally understanding why Marcus handled every situation with such grace and wisdom. "The Literacy Foundation tonight," Victoria said suddenly. "You weren't just serving champagne. You were supporting something you believe in." "Education saved my life once," Marcus admitted. "I hope it does the same for others." Victoria felt something shift inside her chest, a recognition that went beyond attraction or admiration. Here was a man who had chosen love over ambition, sacrifice over success, and somehow emerged more complete than anyone she'd ever met. "Marcus, would you consider having coffee with me tomorrow?" Not as a conquest or a proposition, but as two people who might have something real to discover together. Marcus smiled, the expression transforming his tired features into something radiant. "I would like that very much, Victoria. But I should warn you, my schedule revolves around an 80-year-old who asks 1,000 questions and believes in magic." "I'd like to meet her," Victoria said, surprising herself with the honesty. "If you think she'd be comfortable with that." 3 weeks later, Victoria sat in Marcus and Emma's small kitchen, watching father and daughter prepare Sunday breakfast with choreographed ease. Emma chattered about her favorite books, while Victoria listened with genuine interest, discovering joy in the child's boundless curiosity. "Daddy says you run a big company," Emma announced, setting down her orange juice. "Do you like it?" Victoria considered the question seriously. "I'm learning to like it more, especially when I can help programs that matter, like the Literacy Foundation." "Daddy used to teach people about books," Emma said proudly. "Maybe he could teach your company people too." Marcus and Victoria exchanged a meaningful look across the table. In recent weeks, Victoria had been considering education initiatives for her company, ways to combine profit with purpose. "That's a wonderful idea, Emma," Victoria said softly. As sunlight streamed through their modest window, Victoria realized she'd found something worth more than all her business success. A family built on authentic love, where poetry lived in everyday moments, and where she was valued for who she was becoming, not what she'd achieved. If this story touched your heart, please drop a comment and let us know your favorite part or if you've witnessed similar hidden talents in someone special.